I am a ninth grade student at a high school in Wilmington, Delaware, one of America's poorest and most dangerous cities. And I'm here to tell you that my high school and many high schools like mine may not be fully preparing students for life after high school. But before you brace yourself for another cliche talk about the declining quality of American public education, you probably should know something very important. I actually attend a private school. And while my school, like many other private schools, gives me access to abundant resources, top-of-the-line facilities, amazing teachers, and a curriculum that will challenge and engage me, it masks something very important that me and all of my peers will need to be successful members of society: racial and socioeconomic diversity. Now, please, don't get me wrong. I am super fortunate to have received such a generous scholarship to one of the most prestigious private institutions Delaware has to offer. It provides me with opportunities many other kids in public schools where I live are never afforded. In their schools, classes are crammed and crowded. Teachers turn over at rates that create instability for students. Students have to worry about their safety as much as they worry about their studies. Expectations for students' learning and abilities are low. And many students graduate high school without the right tools to be successful in college. And yes, while I understand a private school education is a game changer for me and my peers, we're missing something very important. We're missing the fact that the system of segregated education that we've implemented is hurting all students, public and private. Let me give you a rundown of the typical diversity in my week. In my biology class, I am the only African American. In my math class, I am one of 2 African American males. And so far in high school, I have no teachers of color. Sometimes I sit in class and think, I am definitely not in Kansas anymore. But you know, I'm definitely not my previous public school either, where 98% of the student population were African American and 79% were low income. The multicultural world outside of school will easily be a culture shock for those students segregated by race and socioeconomic status. If you didn't notice, America is changing. Just a few years ago, for the first time in American history, more than half of all school children were considered low income. And by 2020, half of the nation's children are expected to be a part of minority race or ethnic group. And by 2060, researchers project that my tiny home state of Delaware will be one of the most diverse states in the nation. And if we stay on our current segregated path, we will occupy a future of racism, misunderstanding, division, tension, and disparity. In order to see change, we will need to immerse ourselves in diverse experiences, like our school requires us to immerse ourselves in books. We will need to learn about race relation and how to overcome division, like our school makes us learn about poetry or geometry. We're going to have to diversify our curriculum so it does not ignore the excellence and the impact of those not of European descent. All of us, we are going to have to prioritize diversity when we make decisions on where we want to live and go to school. Because ultimately, our schools are segregated because that's what our neighborhoods look like. During his famous I Have a Dream speech, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, 100 years later, the life of the Negro is sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream that one day, on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. More than 50 years after Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech and the Brown versus Board of Education decision that found segregated schools to be unconstitutional, we are back at a place where our schools are segregated and unequal. Because as powerful as the courts are in this country, they cannot make our hearts and our minds just. We're going to have to want to create a different future and a more perfect union. So today, I have a dream that one day we will arrive at a future where segregated schools and neighborhoods will be a thing of the past. Thank you.